Welcome to TNT Sports Talk. Today is Thursday, August 30th, reaching the end of August. As always, we're presented by D's Home Cuts. I'm your host, Travis Karcheski. Again, it's just me today. Truman's still at school. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to record. We aren't really sure yet. We're still working through that, but as always, we're going to be putting out a show every single Thursday and every single Tuesday, so it doesn't stop no matter what. And we're just going to go ahead and start off. We got some football this weekend. Football's back. Saturday is going to be a big day, not only for the NFL, we'll get into that in a second, but it is going to be a huge day because college football kicks off. Now, I know that it usually, the first couple weeks of college football suck because all the big names are playing, shitty teams who barely belong in Division I. But there's going to be a lot of blowouts, a lot of games that are going to be over by the first quarter. But there is two games. We have two games right now that will be pretty good. Two ranked opponents going against each other. They set it up that way to increase viewership. But you got Washington versus Auburn, 6 versus 9 right there. That's pretty nice. 3:30, we got that game kicking off. It's going to be interesting to see. Washington's and Auburn, I guess they're both playoff contenders. Stidham, I believe, from Auburn, he's the real deal. He's going to be a first-round draft pick, I think. Maybe even the top quarterback off the board, depending on how the season goes. But Washington's got some players. Auburn's got some players. Obviously, this is going to be a good matchup. I'm surprised it's at 3:30. That's pretty early for a game like this. But I guess they think the Notre Dame-Michigan game, which is the other two ranked opponents going against each other, is the better matchup, which I don't believe so. Because, Michigan's 14, Notre Dame's 12. These are two programs who, big history, big, long history, they'll both always be ranked in the top 25 no matter what happens because there's so many fans out there. But these are two teams that have been disappointing over the last couple of years, and I think at 7:30 I'm going to be tuning in. Even though I hate Michigan, I'm going to be rooting for Notre Dame. I'm going to be interested to see how Shea Patterson does, the transfer from Ole Miss. I think Shea's pretty good, even though he's a Michigan quarterback. I really don't want him to do well, but I think he has the ability to do well. The only problem is, I think Michigan is kind of a mess right now under Harbaugh. He's put together a pretty good program. He's kind of turned them around since Brady Hoke, but still. It's Michigan. Notre Dame is the same kind of thing. This team, they're a couple years removed from the national championship, and they just kind of had a bad year last year, and we'll see what happens this year against Michigan, because that's going to be a huge test right off the bat. And I don't know. I kind of like. If it's up to me, if I could make Ohio State's schedule, I don't think I'd ever make them play a ranked opponent the first week, and that's not because I don't want them to have a challenge. I think it's good to go against crappy teams, teams that aren't that don't have as much talent as you. I think it's good to do that the first couple weeks, kind of figure out your team. You can kind of get a lot of film, see how they do against other opponents, because there is no preseason in college football. And they don't really get a shot to play against other teams except week 1. And I think it's really beneficial for them to play ranked teams. But I guess, again, if you're a top-ranked program, you have to be willing to play anybody any week. And I'm not scared if Ohio State played somebody. But I think it's a good idea to get a warm-up game in kind of before, even though it does count. Because you want your players to get used to playing together and stuff like that, because it's college. There's new guys every single year. But that's it right now for NCAA football. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday's show. We'll see. We'll go through some of these games. We'll give the scores of these two games. But we're going to move now to football. Like I said, we were just talking football, but we're going to talk some NFL football. Saturday, like I said, it's college football. I'm going to be watching that all day. But I think the most important thing on Saturday is not the college football's kicking off. It's the final roster cuts. That's right, 90 to 53, like that. There's already been some cuts happening. There's guys on the bubble for every single team. And obviously you're going to get one or two surprise cuts for each team, no matter who you're a fan of. Even if you think somebody's going to get somebody's going to make it to the roster. Chances are they won't, because the NFL is just so ruthless. I saw the stat, I forget what it was, but it's like each 32 teams, each cutting their roster from 90 to 53. I mean, that's over, I think, 4,000 people lose jobs in just the span of a couple hours. We all seen Hard Knocks, where they come to the door, they knock on the door, come get your playbooks, get your iPads, meet you in coach's office. And, these players walk down there, and, for some of them, that's the end of their road for the NFL. They're done. For some veteran guys, it's over, done with. And, hopefully a undrafted rookie gets another shot, And the practice squad, I think, is really interesting because it gives guys more of a chance to make the roster. I'm glad it's there, but it's like if a guy doesn't follow the practice squad that you really wanted to, chances are he's going to move on, and it sucks, especially if you're like, let's say the Packers, for example, and you lose a guy who you drafted, but there's really no room for him, but you drafted him and he's not ready just yet, and you really want to take him to the practice squad, but then the Jets offer him a spot in their 53, he's obviously going to take the 53-man roster, and it's not good for you because you lose out on a potentially pretty good talent that just wasn't ready yet. So I think practice squad's a good thing. It really helps players, to get acclimated to the NFL a little bit more. Obviously, I'm going to be watching the Packers on that Saturday. The Packers, though, I think yesterday, Wednesday, August 29th, was one of those days where Brian Gutekunst, the GM for the Packers, just put in the work from sun up to sundown. This guy went ham. We'll start off, obviously we're going to get into the biggest news out of yesterday, I think, in all of sports. We'll start with Brett Hundley. My man Brian Gutekunst was able to flip Hundley for a 6th-round pick to the Seahawks. Not really sure why the Seahawks so badly wanted a backup quarterback. I guess that offensive line's pretty damaged, so I guess they don't want Russell Wilson to get hurt, but if he does, they want somebody who could be a suitable backup. And I guess Hundley is that. He's a decent backup. He's not going to win you games. He's not going to do much better than, at best, 500, a game under 500. So they needed a guy to come in and kind of shore up that backup position. But the Packers, great job on them. I know Hundley, is he a 4th or a 5th round pick? I'm not sure. I'll look it up real quick. He was, in all shapes and forms, everyone was excited for him to come in and kind of take over last year, but he just did a terrible job. I think he went 3 for 6. He got shut out a couple times, especially at home. He never threw a touchdown pass. He just really disappointed last year. He's been in the system for 2 to 3 years, I believe, and we were excited. He had a pretty good preseasons during those years, but when it finally came time for him to show up and play, he failed. And I think if we would have traded him last year before he played, we would have gotten a lot better draft pick. And I was surprised we even got, a next year 6th-round pick. So I was pretty happy with that. But that's Gutekunst working his magic because he is one of the best young GMs in the NFL. I've decided that over this offseason. And you might not think that, but my man Gutekunst goes from getting rid of Brett Hundley, flipping him for at least a little bit of value, to signing the greatest player in NFL history to the largest contract in NFL history. Aaron freaking Rodgers got his deal yesterday. He got paid 4 years, $134 million. 4 years, $134 million. Aaron Rodgers will be playing with the Packers for the next 6 years. I'm going to let that sink in a little bit. Aaron Rodgers will be playing for the Packers for the next 6 years. That is just straight up sex to my ears. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback of all time. I was worried we're at 2 years left on his deal. I was worried that they weren't going to get this deal done. I knew he was going to be a Packer for life. There's no doubt in my mind. But the longer it went, a little bit more sweat started to accumulate, a little bit more of a thought started to appear in my mind. But he got it over with, got him done with. My man Aaron Rodgers will be back throwing that ball for the Packers for the next couple years. For the rest of his playing career, I think it's safe to say Aaron Rodgers will be a Green Bay Packer, and that is the greatest feeling the greatest thing I could ever say, and it's just so awesome, and I love him so much. There's two guys in this world, I was telling somebody this the other day, that I would die for. That my love for these two athletes goes deeper than most people. But outside of my family, my love for Aaron Rodgers and Carmelo Anthony runs deeper than any other guy. Those two guys are my favorite athletes of all time, and the fact that they'll be both making Carmelo Anthony's set. He's made more NBA money than LeBron James over his career, because he deserves it. So he's set. But Aaron Rodgers has kind of been, Matt Ryan got a big deal, Stafford got a big deal, making them the highest paid guys. And that's fine. They're fine quarterbacks, but they're not Aaron Rodgers level type of money. Aaron Rodgers deserves to be paid the most out of anybody in the entire league for the rest of his life. And right now, obviously, I think it's going to change over the next 6 years, but he is the highest paid quarterback, and that is all that matters. Highest paid player, because he deserves it more than anything. So I'm glad that he'll be back next year, slinging the football around for the Packers. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because I think this is one of the best teams he's had over the last couple of years. Now, speaking of quarterbacks who didn't play last year really due to injury, Teddy Bridgewater. If you didn't see this yesterday, you probably did. Probably pretty big NFL news. Teddy Bridgewater was traded from the Jets to the Saints for a 5th-round pick, I want to say. Bridgewater hasn't really seen any meaningful action since 2015 due to that knee injury, which was, I guess, really, really bad. And then the Jets went out and signed him because before he got hurt, the Vikings were in a whole different direction. He was their guy. He was the face of their franchise for years to come. He got hurt, then Case Keenum had his little year, and they realized they wanted to go in a different direction. They really didn't want to go with Teddy Bridgewater anymore, so they moved on from him, and they signed, obviously Kirk Cousins. And Bridgewater has been kind of this purgatory for the last couple of months because the Jets signed him, but then they drafted Darnold. I don't think they believed Darnold was going to be there at number 3. And when he was, I think they were shocked, and obviously they thought they had to pick Darnold, and I think they did too. But Darnold now, we'll talk about that in a second, has impressed this preseason, but so has Bridgewater. He's played pretty well, and now with Josh McCown, this quarterback room was a very crowded quarterback room, very talented, full of 3 guys who all have the capability to start, and Josh McCown's kind of on his way out. He's kind of the mentor, and Teddy Bridgewater still has the ability to become a face of a franchise, and he was shipped to the Saints. He was kind of in that purgatory with the Jets, so they shipped him to the Saints, where he'll be the backup now for Drew Brees for however long, Drew Brees decides to keep playing, a year or 2 maybe. I don't quote me on that. He is getting up there, though, so we'll see what happens. But I think the Saints feel pretty safe now in saying, Bridgewater's our backup. He's a safe pick. I think he is a pretty decent quarterback. He just needs another shot. But we're going to stick in New York. Obviously, the Jets, they named Sam Darnold their starting quarterback yesterday. 21 years old. He's going to be the face of the franchise. They're going to be running the show for a New York sports team. That's a pretty big weight to put on a 21-year-old's shoulders. I mean, he's barely older than me. It's crazy to think that somebody who's about a year older than me, a little bit less, is going to be starting quarterback in the NFL for the New York Jets. He's impressed. He has completely earned it. I'm sure Jets fans are a little nervous, but I would be excited because I think he's earned this. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to come out and completely take the league by storm. I think it's going to take a couple years for him to really run with this job. I think it's going to take a little bit of work. But the Jets, you're committed to this now. You cannot bench him no matter how bad it gets. They got McCown. He's a pretty decent backup. I think he's been a pretty underrated starter his whole career. But you got McCown. Now you got Darnold running the show. Just let it go. Let's see what happens. I think this year they'll end up 7-9, 8-8, that range. They got a pretty good chance that they'll win the first couple of games. They're playing like the Browns and the Dolphins and the Lions. So they're not playing, the Patriots and the Packers and the Saints week 1 and 2 and 3. So he's got a chance to really, get his feet together, really get used to playing in the NFL, and I think he's going to do just fine. It's going to take some time though. So like I said, we're still trying to get through these headlines in the NFL yesterday, which was a crazy day for NFL football, and it's about to get even crazier, especially on Saturday. Saturday's Ian Rappaport, Adam Scheffler, they're going to be earning their money by all these cuts and signings and all this stuff, because Saturday and even Sunday is going to be a pretty fun day if you're a fan of football. But this is probably the weirdest type of story. I mean, it kind of first started to come out Wednesday morning, and then by the end of Wednesday night, it was just completely gone out of the way. I mean, completely blown up, I think a little bit out of proportion. Again, I don't know. This story is all about Michael Kendricks, the linebacker for the Browns, formerly with the Eagles, who's had a bit of a rough week. My man went from, I didn't watch Hard Knocks, but he went from talking shit about his Eagles teammates on Tuesday to getting charged with insider trading by, I forget who, I can look it up really quickly. I don't know, some U.S. attorney said that he's going to be indicted on insider trading, taking inside stock tips for something, I don't know, financial shit that I really don't want to get into because that's just really boring. But he went from getting dragged around on Twitter for being a snitch, for being a snake, to being federally charged with an insider trading, and then now he's cut. He's on the street. God knows where this man's going to end up. If it's in federal prison, I don't know. He said it was 4 years ago. He already admitted to it, so it was 4 years ago. He said he made like about $1 million off of it, which in NFL money is not a ton, but obviously it is in the stock world. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting. Because like I said, the Browns kind of had to cut him because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't really want this drama around. Obviously, Kendricks is a pretty good player. He was a pretty big part of what the Eagles did last year and why they won the Super Bowl. But it doesn't matter. When you get caught doing stupid shit like this, you're going to get cut and it's interesting because I was kind of hoping the Browns would keep him. Maybe he could still get suspended, but I want to see what Roger Goodell, what's the punishment from Roger Goodell, because like what do you punish him with? How many games do you suspend this guy? I mean, Ray Rice created one of the worst videos I've ever seen in my life, punching his girlfriend in the face, then dragging her out of the elevator, and he got 2 games? So I don't know. I mean, if this sounds pretty serious, but we'll see what happens. If Kendrick ever steps foot on a football field again, I don't know. Obviously, for us simple people, we don't really think insider trading is that big of a deal. There's obviously a lot worse things, but it is a crime. He'll be charged. He'll be arrested, I think, and we'll see what happens to him. I'm going to be following this because it's interesting. So like I said, there's no precedent to stuff like this, so we'll see what happens from there. I don't know. And then the last NFL story, again, we got a lot of NFL news. Season's starting up, so bear with us here. Elvis Duberville decided to hang it up today. That's, what was it? How long is he in the league for? 12 seasons. Sorry, I wrote it down. I really couldn't read my writing. 12 years in the league. He's only 34, which seems pretty young, but I guess 12 years in the trenches can really do a number on your body. Example, Joe Thomas. This guy in his prime was a straight-up beast. 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. I think 104, 105 career sacks. This guy was a straight-up monster with the Broncos. And then, he went to the Ravens slowly towards the end there. But, he did play pretty well with the Ravens. I think he had 18 or 19 sacks in 2014. He was with the 49ers last year, didn't do much. It's just been a long, slowly decline for these guys. Pass rushers in general, it goes, you start with your one team, you play 8 or 9 years there, then you slowly decrease in skill. Next thing you know, you're a third down guy just coming into pass rush, and then you're out of the league. Example, Dwight Freeney, Julius Peppers right now. Jared Allen even too. So, like I said, Elvis Dumervil, he's decided to hang it up. That sucks. He was an all-time pro, a straight-up monster with the Broncos and even the Ravens. I think he's a Pro Bowler. I mean, well, obviously he was a Pro Bowler. He's a Hall of Famer. First ballot, I don't think so, but he'll get into the Hall of Fame in a couple years because he was just straight-up dominant during those couple of seasons there. Yeah, that was a lot. So we're going to move on now. We're going to move to baseball. We don't have a ton of baseball news, don't have a ton of basketball news, but we are going to talk, because we talk about it every single show. We're going to talk about baseball and basketball, but obviously every single show we're also going to talk about my man Dom and his business, D's Home Cuts. I've said it time and time again. If you're a guy, you don't really... you don't really shop around your haircut place. You kind of just go wherever you want to go, wherever's easiest, and you just pay whatever. And you're going to end up paying $20 up even. That's cheap. $30 up. It's insane the amount that people are paying for your haircuts. So you either A, try to find another place, or you'll try to do it yourself, and it just ends up looking terrible. But stop all the heartaches, stop all the pain, stop all the headaches, and just turn to D's Home Cuts. D's Home Cuts is the fastest growing haircut place around Northeast Ohio. For only $7, D will provide you with a modern haircut and styling. Let me tell you, me and Sherman have been going there for the last couple months. So has our entire town. I think you go up to any guy around Medina, and I guarantee you'll find somebody who has had their hair cut by Dom. He's doing a great job. He's in college, so he's trying to make some extra cash. And he is doing such a great job at his haircut. He's very talented, very good. He'll give you the best style for you. He'll tell you what to get. He'll cut it the way he sees, and it will look great. Every single time. It's going to get better and better and better and better. He's always upgrading his equipment so he can give you the best haircut possible. So turn to D's. You can find him on Twitter. You'll see, all his things. Instagram's probably the best place to find him because you can set up an appointment right there in his bio. So search him on Instagram at D's Home Cuts. Every night he's posting stories about different haircuts he's doing. He's got great videos on there. You can really see what he's doing. Just go check it out. That's all I ask is you check it out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. D's Home Cuts, professional haircuts at a low price. So, I don't want to talk about the Brewers, but I have to. This is a sports show. We will report on the sports headlines. And last night, Christian Yelich, who I'll admit, I don't hate Christian Yelich at all. I think he's actually a pretty fine young player. I really wanted the Indians to get him when he was being rumored around. Obviously, he had to go to the Brewers, which sucks, so I have to hate him now. But in my deep heart, I actually don't mind Christian Yelich. I think he's a pretty good guy, and I think he's really fun to watch. Yesterday, he hit for the cycle. So if you don't know what a cycle is, obviously, first base, you get a single, a double, triple, and a home run. Pretty hard to do. And Christian Yelich did it yesterday. But not only did he do it, he went 6 for 6. 6 for 6, 2 home runs. This man, obviously it's against the Reds, so it's not that impressive. It'd be more impressive if it was also like Scherzer. But he did hit the cycle. Got to give them in props. It's not an easy thing to do at all. And, I know Truman was talking shit about it. He was texting me. Obviously, I really wish he wouldn't have, but he did. And I don't know, cycles have kind of lost their magic too over the past couple of years in baseball. It's still pretty impressive, and it's a lot more rare than no-hitters. But no-hitters and cycles have kind of lost their magic, lost their attraction over the years. And I don't know, maybe that's just because it's baseball, people don't really, care that much about baseball, or maybe it's just because, you'll get one or two every single year. It's not really that rare anymore. But, credit to Yelich. It's a cool story. He's had a pretty good year, I'll give him that. Ugh. So the last story in baseball, we got Lucas Duda. He got I think it was like a waiver trade, cast considerations to the Braves. Duda, a veteran, 32 years old, somebody who's been around the league. He was with the Mets, I believe, for a long time. First baseman. He's batting .240 with, I think, 13 home runs. They're really, he's kind of a guy, really made no sense for the Royals to keep him around because the Royals are obviously a losing team, a trash franchise right now. And I think he's only signed on for 1 year, so he was kind of brought in for this. Usually what happens is if an older guy, a veteran, who really has decreased, his value in the trade market has really decreased over the last couple of years. Usually what they'll do is sign like a 1 year deal with a pretty bad team where they can get some consistent at-bats just because there's not enough talent and just because, even their name in the lineup draws fans to the stadium. So that's probably why he signed with the Royals. And then, they got half a season pretty much before the deadline to make their mark and to see if they can get traded to another place. That's why teams who do this love it, because they can trade these guys for some prospects, especially if they really perform well. It's a pretty good move for rebuilding teams because, again, it sells tickets because you got big-name veterans coming in, and you can get some prospects if they end up playing well. If they don't play well, it's not a big deal because they'll just leave after a year and hopefully try to do it again if another team is interested in their skills. But Duda hasn't had that great of a year, but they had to get rid of him for something, so they gave cash considerations to the Braves. Again, Duda's not a world beater, but he is going to give some help off the bench there. He's going to return back to the NL East. He played for the Mets for like 8 or 9 years, I think. So we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to be, the guy who really takes the Braves to the promised land. I don't think he's that good anymore. But he's a solid bat off the bench. So good move for the Braves, and we'll see what happens from there. Now we're going to move on to, hold on a second, and get some water. Let me see here. We're going to move on to basketball. Obviously, why did I forget that? Basketball, again, we're in that same kind of, lull right now in the season. We're trying to find more stories. Just not a lot going on right now. Unlike the NFL, basketball kind of quiets down, and so does baseball over the offseason. But we have another retiree. Obviously, Manu Ginobili retired the other day, which was kind of crazy. But another guy retired today, David West, the former, I think, the Hornets is what he's most known for, but I think he played with the Pacers for a little bit. 15 years in the NBA. He was a two-time All-Star, 38 years old. He was pretty solid for the Hornets for a while. He was kind of that go-to scoring option with Chris Paul right there. He was pretty deadly. I know he was the captain there for a while. He spent 8 years with them. Four with Indiana. I'm reading it right now. 1 with the Spurs and 2 with the Warriors. Obviously, I think he was a pretty key piece to the Warriors coming off the bench. I think they knew he wasn't going to be back this year. But going out a back-to-back champion has got to feel pretty good for David West. And I would say this is a pretty good time for him to retire. He's 38 years old, doesn't have much left in those knees. So it's time for him to move on. I don't think he even had a deal this year. He just decided to hang it up. He was a part of that Warriors bench that really helped them to succeed. I know most people look at the Warriors and they say, oh, they got Steph, Clay, KD now, and Draymond, and that's pretty much it. But and Iguodala too, I'll throw him in there. But this Warriors team, the last couple of years, has had a solid bench. I think their bench is one of the most underrated proponents of this super team. I don't think this team would work if it wasn't for their bench. Some of these guys, the Sean Livingstons, the Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee was there for a while. He's with the Lakers now. You can go on and on. Ian Clark was a big deal. Jordan Bell last year was pretty big. And David West was always part of that rotation in the finals. And he would come off the bench and he'd give you some points. He'd give you some scoring. And, the Warriors are going to lose that. They're going to miss that. But once a guy leaves, another opportunity for somebody to step up. So David West, we wish you the best in your retirement, and hopefully you find something to do. This is a guy I could see going to the Big Three. He doesn't. I feel like he's still got a little bit left, and the Big Three is obviously a lot less competition than the NBA. But we're going to move now to a couple segments that we started last week and we liked, so we're going to keep going. But before that, our last ad read of the day. A's freaking Lawn Service. Our show has been brought to you by A's Lawn Service since the beginning. Since 2014, A's has been providing professional landscaping to many homes around Northeast Ohio. By using professional equipment, A's constantly strives to provide families with professional landscaping at a low and fair price. You see it all around your town, all around, there's million landscaping companies around, big and small. Most of the time, they're just big name corporate landscaping services that hire just a bunch of kids. They don't really even give them any sort of background check or anything. They don't interview them. They just bring them into the building because they need some bodies to do their work. But A's Lawn Service is different. It's different because Andrew really, he knows these guys. He knows his workers. They really help. They're really good kids. They work really hard. Like I said, it's locally owned, locally operated by Andrew Ellis, who's been a great friend of ours for a long time. Turn to A's and trust me, your lawn and home will never look better. Andrew's hired a pretty solid crew of guys who will do their best. Make sure your lawn, your home look perfect at the end of the day. Like I said it last show. It's extremely hot out right now. We're getting into that end of summer, start of fall type of heat where it's kind of cold in the day but really, really hot in the afternoon and night. And obviously football's starting. So your only free time now really is the weekends because school's starting up, stuff like that. And you want to watch football on your weekends. Don't waste your time doing your lawn, when you could be inside in an air-conditioned house looking at your perfectly manicured lawn from outside, thanks to A's Lawn Service. So turn to A's. Trust me, your lawn, your home will never look better, and you will not be disappointed. The phone number is 330-241-2392. Again, 330-241-2392. And the email is lawnservice.a's@gmail.com. A's Lawn Service, LLC. You grow it, we cut it. So we did the boldest move of the week. I'm sorry I didn't get the poll up. That's my fault. The Twitter's been kind of dead the last couple of weeks. I need to, get that back going. And I will. I'll get it cleaned up a little bit. School start. It's kind of been a little crazy. But we're gonna do our another segment we did last week. The what the f. We don't want to swear. What the f sports story, non-sports story of the week. We talked about the ramen noodles last week. The theft of the ramen noodles. What did Truman do? I forget. But now we're going to talk about this guy. This 18-year-old kid, Vaco. It's an extremely long name. He's from Georgia, the country Georgia. He's 18 years old. He's solved 6 Rubik's Cubes underwater, only taking 1 breath. And he set a new Guinness World Record. I don't know how... No, everybody knows Rubik's Cubes. They're pretty difficult to solve. They're not the easiest thing in the world to solve, and it takes a lot of work. But to solve 6, let alone underwater, is pretty difficult and in on its own. So I give Vaco some props there. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how you practice this type of stuff, but all credit to him because that's pretty cool. So now we're going to move on to question and answer. We only got 2 today. Again, a little bit shorter of a show because, like I said, school's getting a little chaotic right now because, it's the first week and you're still trying to get into the swing of things. But we'll get it all fixed up next week. But we do have some pretty good questions with you from you guys today. The first one is, where do we think Khalil Mack's going to end up? We talked about Teddy Bridgewater on the last show. They said, where do you think Teddy Bridgewater is going to end up? And you saw what happened there. I didn't predict the Saints, but you know what happened. I said he's probably going to be traded, and I was right. So, Khalil Mack. Let's dive into Khalil Mack a little bit. Out of Buffalo a couple years ago, first-round pick. In his first couple years in the NFL, he has just been a force from snap 1 to snap whatever he's on right now. This is one of the best young pass rushers, one of the best pass rushers in the league. I put him right up there with the Von Millers, J.J. Watt. I would put him there with Clowney, Bosa. He's probably one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Everybody knows that he's probably a top 10 player in the NFL. The only problem is the Raiders, he wants to get paid because he deserves to get paid. But the Raiders just won't pay him for any reason. John Gruden doesn't even talk to the guy, which makes no sense. I think that's the dumbest move out of anything. Why wouldn't you talk to your best player? So he's been on hold the last couple of months. You haven't heard from him. He's waiting for a contract, waiting for a call. And I think we're getting to the point now where the Raiders just, they're kind of fed up. They kind of want to trade him. They kind of want to get rid of him. And that's rumors been kind of floated out there that they want to get rid of him. He's on the trade block. I know a couple teams have been interested. The Bears. Some of the names I've heard are like the Bears, the Jets, the Lions. I heard were pretty interested, and then the Packers, which for me that's my biggest thing. Because if the Packers could land Khalil Mack, that'd be amazing. And it makes sense because now the rumors out there that the Raiders want 2 first-round picks. And if you look, the Raiders and the Packers are pretty similar franchises. Reggie McKenzie came from Green Bay. That's the GM over there. The Packers have two first-round picks, and they need a pass rusher. And Khalil Mack is a game-changing type of guy. So I think he's going to end up being traded. I don't think he's going to play another snap with the Raiders, which is stupid for the Raiders franchise, because he's afraid. He is a guy who will bring people to the stadium. He sells tickets. You're moving cities in a couple months here. You're going to go to Las Vegas. You need somebody. Khalil Mack, I think, is a pretty good name for Las Vegas, and it sucks that they won't make a deal, but I don't think it's going to get done. So I think he's going to end up being traded. Does Gutekunst give up those 2 first-round picks for him? I really don't think he wants to. But I think Khalil Mack's the type of player where you have to. I think you got to talk to him. They saved some money in cap space with this contract of Aaron Rodgers. Don't know how, but they did. I think you got to talk to Khalil Mack. Gutekunst got to get on the phone. Say, if you were to come here, would you sign a long-term deal with us? And if he says yes, I say you trade him right away. But if you come here and he plays for 1 year and then he leaves, I wouldn't do it. But if you can get a long-term deal kind of worked out with him beforehand, then obviously I think he's worth those 2 first-round picks. He's going to command a lot. He's a talented player, one of the best players in the NFL. So I think he's going to end up getting traded. And I think he ends up where he ends up, I don't know. Packers, I think, is the best spot. But again, it's not my room to say. Wherever he feels like he wants to go the best or where he'll get paid the best, I don't know. Last question we got. Do we think the A's have a shot at the World Series? The Oakland Athletics have been probably one of the biggest sports surprises so far out of anything. They are in second place right now. They're still, I don't know if they still are in a series with the Astros, but they were for a long time. They've been some pretty good games. Although they're still in that wild card spot. Do they have a shot at the World Series? No. I don't think they're ready. They got a good, solid young core with Olsen at first base, Minaya behind them, pitching. Chris Davis is one of the best hitters in the league, and he's leading the league in home runs right now. And then Matt Chapman is a potential to be a superstar MVP candidate. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't think they have a shot at the World Series this year. They just don't have the pitching or the consistent hitting. Chapman's got to get a little bit better at hitting before he becomes a guy who can elevate a team to a World Series type of level. So, no, I don't think the A's have a shot this year at winning the World Series, but I think they have a pretty good shot in a couple years here to really make an impact. But, you never know. Once you get in the playoffs, records, all that's thrown out the window. It's just baseball, and things could change pretty quickly. So, where do I think Khalil Mack's going to end up? I think he's going to be traded to where, I don't know. Packers would be best option. Do the A's have a shot at the World Series? No, not this year. Maybe next year. So that's it for the show today. Again, I want to thank you to our sponsors, D's Home Cuts and A's Lawn Service. They've been there since the beginning. Tuesday will be our 50th episode, and D's Home Cuts and A's Lawn Service has been promoting us since episode, I think, within our first 5 episodes, we got both of them. And that was huge for us. We're still looking for more sponsors. But that was pretty cool for them to sign on, and they've been with us since the beginning. So go ahead and check them out again. D's Home Cuts on Instagram, and then 330-241-2392 if you want A's Lawn Service. You can find them on Twitter, too. Just search A's Lawn Service. Other than that, we ask that you go into iTunes, give us 5 stars, rate, review, subscribe. Obviously, do all that. That really helps us out. Follow us on Twitter at TNT Sports Talk 12, or follow us on our dead Instagram, which Sherman is really doing a bad job at promoting right now. But hopefully he'll fix that. I gotta do a better job on Twitter, though. I'll give him that. But Twitter is the best place if you want to reach us. You can reach us on Instagram in the DMs, but Twitter DMs is the best place for anybody to talk to us. If you want to be a guest, questions, comments, concerns. You want to send question and answers in, whatever you want, we will talk about it. We will, whatever you want. Just send us questions there. We're really trying to get better. Segment ideas, segments you like, segments you don't like. You don't like what we did good this show, what we did bad, whatever. It really, 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 really helps us out. And we love interacting with our fans too. Other than that, tune in on 12 Ounce tomorrow from 12 to 1. YouTube, find us on there. Other than that, that's kind of it for today. We want to thank you. Tune in on Tuesday where we're going to have a big show for you. It's going to be a big week. Hopefully Truman will be back at least for one of the shows. Again, we got to figure out recording. But big show for you. We're going to go over all of college football. We're going to preview. This is what we're going to do on Tuesday. We're going to go over all the college football, everything that happened. And then we're going to go over all the cuts, franchise, NFL cuts, surprise cuts, cuts that didn't happen, different stuff like that. And then Thursday, we're going to break down every NFL game for you, getting you ready for the best day of the year, opening with Week 1 football, NFL. It's back, baby. No better feeling in the world. It's going to be game week next week. Packers taking on the Bears. I'm really excited because that's the perfect opportunity. That's the perfect show. Our 50th episode could not come at a better time, right before the NFL season. So we're ready to roll. We're ready to get this started. We're ready to just start jamming out some episodes here and really get this podcast some new life. Because the last couple of weeks we feel like we've been going through the motions, but we're really going to get it going next week. Especially I'll have a little bit better schedule with school. So other than that, have a great day and tune in on Tuesday for a great show. Thanks, guys.